Okay. I'm reading from a prepared sheet. And I'm also wearing my t-shirt. Okay, my name's Bronwyn Williams. I live in Hobart in Tasmania. I've got 4 adult sons, 3 very, very delightful daughters-in-law and 7 equally delightful grandchildren. I call myself an organic feminist. I had the benefit of a solid feminist education at an Anglican girls' school in Sydney, in high school, headed by the very legendary Betty Archdale. If you'd like to look her up, she was a very dynamic and outspoken advocate for the rights of women and girls back in the 60s and early 70s. We were left in no doubt that we were equal to, if not better than, any man or boy. Professionally, I've worked as a solicitor and later, after finishing a degree in psychology, as a community support worker. In both roles, I advocated for women in difficulty, divorce, housing stress, and domestic violence. And it has always been clear to me that those difficulties are fairly standard manifestations of sex-based disadvantage. By offering support and advocacy, I always endeavoured to level the playing field as much as that was possible, to encourage women to recognise their rights as human beings and to fight for them in a society that would deny them at every possible opportunity. I moved to Tasmania 12 years ago and shortly thereafter came across the lovely Isla McGregor. Up to that point, I saw myself as an advocate for women and girls, but not necessarily an activist. Isla, as everyone knows, is a long-time activist, and she had me engaged in her work almost immediately. First with an organisation working against the harms of the sex trade, and more recently opposing the sex self-ID laws in Tasmania through Women Speak Tasmania. This campaign against sex self-ID laws was intense and very, very complex, and we put enormous effort into countering the proposed legislation, lobbying politicians and supporting members of Parliament who opposed the legislative changes. Unfortunately, despite our best efforts, politics is a numbers game, and the proponents of the legislation had the numbers. It's not an entirely lost cause, I don't believe, and thanks to the efforts of Dr. Jeff Holloway, who I think is with us this evening, the powers that be aren't being allowed to rest on their laurels. Along with many other activists, I support Jeff and keep a watchful eye on events here in Australia and overseas. About a year ago, I made very early contact with the UK Gender Identity Service whistleblower Kirsty Entwistle, and I followed her work and the work of those in the medical profession, both Australian and overseas, who oppose the medical and surgical interventions offered minor children in the name of gender affirmation. The lawyer in me can see the shit moving ever more steadily towards the fan. It's only a matter of time before the people pushing the affirmation model of care are going to be held to account for the damage they're doing to children.